Ladies and gentlemen, what the f- is that? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of the Juan and Only Podcast with your host, Juan Rivas. I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in to this episode, and for those that tuned into the previous episode and provided the feedback, I really appreciate it. I'm glad you guys liked it. So with that in hand, I have the new episode coming up right now. Now, in this episode, I have my good friend Patrick Triola. He's an employee at an oil and gas company here in Houston, Texas, and he's here to share his tips and advice for students on how to get a job. And now, one of the topics we covered a lot was, what does it mean to have a good GPA or a bad GPA? If it matters, if it's going to be the detrimental factor whether you get a job or not. So if you're interested in that and you're interested in getting a job as a student, please stay tuned for this episode. And as always, if you like this video or like this podcast, please leave a rating, leave a comment or feedback. I would greatly appreciate it. And without further ado, let's jump right into the episode. Thank you. All right. Anyways, like I said, man, it's the last time we talked.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, man. Yeah,
thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. No, I appreciate it. Like I said, it's great to catch up, and on top of that, knock two birds, one stone, and do a podcast, because there's a lot that you can bring to the people. To help out the people. But anyways, what's say, man? How's work, man? Last time we talked was obviously after the internship, which is where we met at Kinder Morgan.
Yeah. Which
was a great internship. It was like 2 or 3 months. It was pretty good. I learned a lot. Obviously, it helped me out. But after that, we still hung out. But I think like 3 or 4 months after that, we just kind of disconnected. And now it's been a year.
Yeah, I mean, you were pretty busy with college. I was pretty busy out of college.
Right.
Not worrying about that stuff. You know, more of a free man, if you will. No.
Really serious.
But no, it's been going good for me. I'm at work at Kinder Morgan. I work in the IT department, of course.
A very particular IT.
Yeah, it's a very particular portion of IT.
Very
department.
Niche. Like I think only oil and gas companies have this.
Yeah, oil and gas companies have it. Electrical companies have it.
There you go.
It's SCADA.
SCADA.
Or SCADA stands for supervisory. Supervisory. Yeah, it's tough to remember it.
I don't remember. I have a book on it. Do you know that?
You have the book on it?
I have a book on SCADA because before the internship, when I was told I was going to do SCADA or work in the SCADA team, I was like, I don't know what the hell that is. That sounds like a new language. And it's not a language. It's just a way of like creating a system. Right, an acronym for sure.
It's an acronym. It's Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition.
So SCADA.
No. He didn't say O. He didn't use the O.
I guess I can give the real basics of it. You know, we could talk a long time if you wanted to about SCADA, but just the basics of it is, at its core, you know, you got a pipeline or you have some sort of intricate thing or area to track, right?
Right.
Like a pipeline or maybe an electrical system.
Right.
Water lines.
Yeah.
You have to be able to know exactly what's going on across the board, right? At all times, 24/7. So we have installed, certain sensors and meters out there that we read constantly 24/7. And we bring that data back, and then the other big thing about that is, you know, we have control rooms that are monitoring what's happening on the pipeline, and the way that they're doing that is because of what we've set up, the communication between our servers, our company, with the actual devices in the field.
Right.
And so then we're able to kind of track in real time what's going on, and we have a full control room of people that are monitoring.
Super important. I don't mean to cut you off, right? But it's super important to keep track of especially the pressure levels of certain pipelines or wells in this case, in case something, you know, it's just the pressure's off, and it could cause obviously something catastrophic, like hopefully not, but like an explosion, or even that's too extreme, but like a lack of production and whatnot. So it's very important to keep these SCADA systems and not just active but monitored at all times. So the demand for this is not across all industries, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's more so in the oil and gas and electrical. But there will always be a demand. I don't know about always.
There is a demand for it. It's the skill and the knowledge required for it is very
niche,
high value for it.
And with that being said,
it is niche. It
right.
definitely is. But
And-
like, yeah. It's,
So one thing I want to clarify is, for example, both of us went to U of H. Well, both of us got a CIS degree, which is Computer Information Systems. And for those that don't know what that means, is Computer Information Systems, or CIS, is basically the culmination of business and software development to a degree. So you're learning software development to solve business cases. It's like the in between computer science and business administration, if you may. So with that being said, we have 2 degrees. We study the same thing, but to work in SCADA, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's nothing taught in school.
No,
close
there's
to
not.
that.
I mean,
So how'd you get into that?
Well,
And I know,
I was kind of I was one of the groups that I was rotated into. So they had multiple different IT groups that were
As an intern?
at Kinder Morgan, right? So
Right.
as I interned, I actually interned in more of a traditional programming kind of portion,
right.
where you'd mess with a SQL Server and front end being Visual Basic type of thing.
Right.
So I was I got my feet wet with that, and of course I've already been somewhat exposed to that in the academics, in the classes and whatnot.
SQL for sure.
SQL definitely.
Database management.
Our program really did help prepare me for this type of position, for that type of job.
Right.
But so like the kind of work that I was doing was, I felt like it just a natural fit.
Right. Which is ultimately, in my opinion, what you should look for when you're getting a job in the first place. Something that you should feel comfortable doing in the first place.
Definitely.
Not just something for the paycheck.
Yeah, and like, there's multiple avenues we can go down with this conversation, which is great.
Right.
But I guess one thing to emphasize would be let's go back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't mean
so the first thing that I did was I went to a group where I was kind of programming a report.
Right.
The back end, the stored procedure, what's necessary to.
You're good at that. I remember that.
Yeah, and that's what's necessary to get the data output that you want. And then, of course, you would program the front end of that with some sort of a application like SSRS or Crystal Reports. At that time, we were using Crystal Reports more.
Okay.
We've kind of phased that out.
That's old.
Yeah, it is.
Like
We've kind of phased that out. But so that was kind of like my first main project was creating a report.
Right.
Get the back end, get the coding, so you have the right output, then format it, make it look all pretty in a Crystal Reports. So that was kind of like the main thing I did for like the first couple months was working in that world, like the more traditional SQL server programming.
Right.
What you would expect to work on as a programmer, like what you would expect, right?
Right, development.
But no real big surprise. But yeah, so like my last, I guess 3 or 4 weeks, I was in SCADA. Of my internship. My internship was 2 to 3 months, right? Well, it was 3 months.
Yes,
but I think of it in like two different terms of like a 2 blocks. Like 2 months was that what I was first talking about, and then the next month or so was like kind of just dipping my toes into SCADA.
Right.
And barely even not getting anywhere in there.
Right,
but I was working more with like what I was familiar with, like doing queries within their environment. And so the other thing I was doing there was querying their database to create reports.
Right, which is what we learned. In
2 different kind of worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like that's like the story of my experience at the work that I did.
SCADA. What means
during the internship.
So, exactly. So that's how you apply what you learn in SQL.
Yeah, and so to go back to one of your questions, I was just kind of thrown into SCADA. I didn't have any knowledge of what it's about or anything. And
it's
like
when I interned there.
What? When
I interned with y'all in the SCADA team, I didn't know what SCADA even meant.
Yeah, no one does.
Yeah, no. I sort of feel like it's something that once you're there, you learn it, and then but it's not something you can go train. I'm sure there's some training out there, like the book I bought, which is like one of 3 different copies I saw, right, about SCADA. So it's definitely a niche, but there's 2 sides to this coin. You can view it as is it worth it learning SCADA if it's not that popular? Or you can view it the other way around, which is that makes you valuable because you know that technology, whereas it's not taught anywhere else. So you can view it either way. But as far as if you're a student, especially U of H or CIS, or any student for that matter, and you're considering SCADA, this actually leads to my next question, is that was it something you recommend to other CIS majors? Is that something you were like, hey, you would like this or not? I know it depends, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's going to depend on every person's preference, but what drove me towards that was the different types of things you're going to work with. You're not always going to be programming, where, like, if I was in a different department, I might only be programming stored procedures for, like, that's it.
Right.
You clock in, you're going to have this strict tunnel vision.
Narrow.
I'm working with SQL Server or a .NET interface, and that's it.
Right.
That's my job.
Okay. So yeah, I see.
And so, like, I could kind of tell through the rotations, what the brunt of the work would be. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to be, like, straight programming at, like, certain spots there. Whereas in SCADA, you have, like, a plethora of different things you can work on. You might be able to... There's definitely programming aspects in it.
Right.
You'll be doing some scripting using VB Script, Microsoft, VBA language. You might also be working with more, like, real raw structured logic. Well, they call it structured text. And it's probably something, if you're new to IT or, programming technology field, it's probably something you may not have seen before.
Right.
Because it's kind of like more of a legacy or older way of...
Yeah, dude.
It's like a real raw way of programming machines.
Right. I first saw it when
it's
I was
like
in 6th
super
grade.
just like, this is logic.
Right.
Like, boom. Like, this is logic.
Right.
And it's cool to work with once you kind of understand how to utilize it, right? And so that's another example, right? There's another little thing there that you can work with within SCADA. You can do these programming things. The other cool thing I liked about it was, well, in SCADA, there's different softwares that's out there. But what I was exposed to, what they use at Kinder Morgan, is there's certain software that they use. So that's kind of all I can really speak from, is what I've been exposed to. But what I've been exposed to is, their software is called Clear SCADA, and it's more of like an object-oriented database. Mm-hmm. And so it's similar to a relational database, but it's different. It's hard to explain.
Right. But what it seems like, if I may interrupt,
it's organized. Though.
Right.
It's like a hierarchical database structure.
What it seems like is like if you're considering SCADA, if there's ever an opportunity for students to dive into a SCADA opportunity role, it's for people who are interested in not being narrowed down by a specific task. Like, you're not going to always be doing front end screens. You're not always going to be doing back-end SQL stuff. So it's a little variety of just solving the issue, and you involve SQL and whatnot, but it's heavily focused on SQL.
Well,
or that mentality.
Not necessarily. Yeah,
okay.
That's the other thing, is that, there's more to it.
That's cool.
There's graphical work. If you're into, like, you're like more of an artist, you got like an artist kind of mind. That tinge, like you like to kind of draw things.
Right.
So we have to create screens for our control room, our controllers, to be able to monitor the pipeline, right?
I see.
Right.
So the software that we use, this is all kind of one piece of software where you do all these different things, right? And so we create the screens that the controllers use to monitor the pipelines.
Right.
So, like, that's kind of the cool thing. And it all intertwines. Like, you have the graphical display, then you have the database on the back end that you'll be able to associate with the objects on the screen. So it's all intertwined. Okay. So, like, you get, like, this whole world of, like, do you like doing graphical things and animating things?
So there's a lot of things you can do with SCADA.
Yeah.
Even though it's a niche.
Yeah, it's a niche thing, but it's it's highly sought after, that skill. If you have that skill and have that knowledge, you're going to find a job no matter what.
That's really good to mention, because everyone's worried about that.
Like, yeah, if you can dip your toes into that, it's an unknown thing. Like, I had no clue about it, right? But then once I realized, wait a second, look how valuable this is, and combine that with the diversity of the work you're going to do. You're not always going to be pigeonholed in one type of work. That's what drove me. That was my number one choice.
Right. That's
Out of
pretty
all
good.
the options that I had, after I went through my rotation, and I'm kind of fast forwarding to how I got to where.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I had a choice of where I wanted to go. I probably could have went to any group that I wanted.
Within Kinder Morgan. That's
Yeah.
what we're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not trying to toot my own horn too much, but
Right.
I did pretty well, and I
You are God.
leveraged myself pretty well. Say again?
I say you are God in this sense.
Yeah, I'm half God, half human,
Okay, anyways, back to reality.
Very modest of you.
So how'd you get
But,
Kinder Morgan opportunity?
Say again?
How'd you get the Kinder Morgan opportunity? 'Cause I
How'd
can
I
tell
get
my
it?
side of the story, but
Yeah,
mine
yeah.
might be different.
So, and I think everyone ends up telling us a similar story when it comes to
Kinder Morgan?
how'd you get into Kinder Morgan? As far as entry level people, like how we got in, and pretty much you don't know what Kinder Morgan is, right? I didn't know. I had no clue. I saw the words Kinder Morgan, and then they advertised for like an
Software
entry level or
right.
internship for technology
right,
or
right.
programming, whatever. Right. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll go put in my resume and apply through. And we're talking about University of Houston.
Right,
Where-
your particular
right.
personal experience, right?
So yeah, like through the job bank that they had at that time, that's how I applied. And then I got notified not too long after that, hey, would you like an interview? And that's how it started. So
Okay.
they had an interview process, and they actually did the interviews on campus.
Same here.
Yeah, and I think that's what they do pretty much all the time.
It's probably more convenient for them.
They'll get a group of candidates that they deem worthy of interviewing, probably like 10 to 15, and then they'll schedule interviews.
Right.
And usually it's on campus, and so that's how I.
So
got in.
I'm tied to that, right? So obviously you nailed the interview, right? You got
I
obviously
guess so.
right because you got the internship and then got the job. But one thing I really want to focus on here
Yeah.
is something that changed my
Yeah.
complete mindset during that time. Is particularly this. So I want you to, I mean, as much as you'd like to share, what was your GPA and how was your resume structured when you applied?
Okay.
Like, what did you have on your belt that you think, because we don't know what they called you, we can assume, we can only place assumptions, but what did you have on your resume that shined, and what was GPA if it was part of the things that made you shine?
Yeah. Obviously, the higher the number on the GPA, the better. But
Right.
it's not. I'm not going to try to put a blanket statement there, because a lot of times, people will look for not just the tippy top of the GPA.
course.
They're not always just looking for 4.0.
Was your 4.0?
He's very curious what your GPA
Were you-
That's
were-
close.
It's close.
397.
Jesus.
Wow.
Man.
397.
That's amazing.
Just-
I was I was 2 A minuses. I had 2 A minuses. That's what.
God, you're such a failure, man.
I
But
want to talk. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm excited right now, Juan.
Okay.
I gotta admit, man, I'm
So-
excited right now. You got me going here. I love it. I love it, guys.
Okay,
I love
so
this.
so okay, beyond the
There's-
GPA, what's your resume?
I gotta go. There's a thing I want to go back to, but
Okay.
say what's the question again?
What was on your resume?
My resume.
Experience. What
What do
experience
you
did you-
mean by what was my resume? Or
So, for example, when I actually let me tell my story then. For Kinder Morgan,
Sure,
it actually
sure,
goes
sure.
against what you were saying. My GPA was 2.78
as you applied?
as I applied. Their thing said they only accept 3.0 and above, but I applied
That's
either way.
pretty standard. Most people have
Right.
a cutoff of 3.
Right. But this is where, like I
that's
said,
pretty-
my
yeah.
mindset completely changed because I applied at the time because I was told by someone, another student. I mentioned this in yesterday's podcast as well, but just to reiterate, I don't mean to be redundant, but
No.
someone told me you're never gonna get a job with that GPA. So in my mind, I was like, I can either bust my ass with classes that I don't really care that much about. No disrespect to U of H, that I just don't really care that much at the time. Or I can bust my ass some other way. And I was like, there's no way in hell that all and every single company that exists relies 100% on the GPA. So I was like, I
Yeah.
have to stand out some other way, shape,
Yeah.
or form. So I did other things and whatnot. And one of the things I did was I documented a project I did for HEB like 2 years prior to that. that's helped them save money and whatnot. I documented it and presented it in my resume in a way that was, I mean, setting modesty aside, right? Little humble brag here is that I bragged about it basically on my resume.
Yeah, I mean, you put it in a professional way.
Right.
But it's like, hey, it's a way to market yourself.
Right.
Because your number wasn't great, so you had to find other ways to do it.
Correct. And I got the call. Obviously, I got the interview, I nailed it, and I got the internship. But ever since then, my mindset, I keep saying mindset, I should use another word, but basically my point of view on job market and just getting a job in general has completely shifted into not necessarily your GPA, which is still valuable. Again, I'm disrespecting your GPA. It's actually really hard to get that.
There's a weight on it, but
right.
You're making really good points here, and I'm...
Right. You want to add to that?
I'm going to chime in with after you get.
So for Kinder Morgan, the reason I'm bringing this up in particular because there might be some listeners, some viewers that don't have the nicest GPA, the most glamorous GPA like mine, and they might think to themselves, "I'm not going to apply. I'm not going to waste my time." But in reality, apply. You will get a chance if you're good enough, and it's not whether. Because your GPA, in my opinion, is just my opinion. I think GPAs get you interviews for the most part, but your personality and character and experience will determine whether you get the opportunity or not. So for me, I tripled down on my experience and my skills before even considering raising my GPA. For others, go bump your GPA. But for the most part, just practice and try to better your resume, your skill set, and what you can bring to the table as far as value. That's my 2 cents. That's what I learned at an early stage, and that's what got me into receiving multiple full-time offers and internships, even with a shitty GPA. I graduated with 3.1 GPA.
It's a great example of, like, it's true, right?
Right.
That you don't necessarily need a high GPA in order to get opportunity, but if you don't have it, then you may need to do a little bit more to put yourself out there.
Exactly.
Because people might look at it and say, oh, crap, I'm going to set this resume aside. I don't really care.
Right.
But if you do the things that you're talking about, like you really present these types of things, these are the things I've done here. I've done this here. I've done this at HEB, created this project, whatnot. Showcase your value, right? The value that you presented at your previous regimes, right?
Right.
So it's a combination of things, right? It's a combination of things. So GPA is one. What you've done in the past, what kind of work you can put on the plate, that actually matters a lot too.
But on top of that,
but no, there's more though, right? There's
there's way more.
How active are you?
Right.
How active are you in your little community that you're part of at school?
Even LinkedIn.
Are you part of the AITP?
Right,
if you're in CIS group, like we were, the CIS department, our what do you call it? Extracurricular group?
Like activities, but associations.
Yeah, association. That if you're part of the group that is associated with your major, that shows that you're going a little bit beyond, above and beyond.
Right.
Right. That's one more little notch. Like, do everything you can, every single thing you can do to separate yourself, because at the end of the day, it's a contest. People don't want to say it, but it is.
It definitely is.
So you need to have a little bit of that competitive fire. If you don't, then you may get passed over, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Now, I'm not saying that that's the number one thing you need to have. You don't need to be Michael Jordan, that you want to win 6 titles, and if you don't, that then that you're unworthy.
Right.
I'm not saying that, but there needs to be at least a realization that, this is kind of a competition. Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, that's how I looked at it at career fairs. I was
do everything you can to separate yourself.
Right, exactly. No, that's exactly true. So this doesn't really apply to every single major out there, but for CIS majors, especially software development or any of that sort, and this because I can share my 2 cents, is that there are so many things you can do outside of school to learn and practice, and even make projects and applications and websites and things like extracurricular that'll make you stand out way beyond every single classmate you have, and even help you out in other classes you take in the future. So that's kind of like the approach I took. I learned a lot of stuff online and YouTube, and kind of just prepped my resume that it showed 1 or 2 languages that weren't taught in my curriculum and weren't the obvious pick, regardless if they were marketable or not. At the time, it was just like, well, you took the time to learn this thing outside of school? Let me talk to you. I'm not saying it's going to work always, but it worked for me because my GPA was shit.
It works because they are noticing that you're going out of your way above and beyond what you were just go down on a normal path, right?
Right.
On your normal path, you're going to learn this and this and this, like just like everybody else.
Right.
But like you're saying, you're putting all these other tools under your belt that can provide more value, and it shows that you're showing initiative.
Right.
Not everything is about the knowledge you have when you're doing this whole recruitment process. When you're trying to find a job, like I can say because I've been in the position of recruiting now.
Yeah, of course. I've seen you in the career fairs.
So whenever I see a lot of the same people saying the same things, and I'm looking for how people separate themselves. And one of the things is like, okay, what's the character? What can you tell if they have like this drive or passion? Right. And that's kind of a soft skill, and you can't always necessarily tell after 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but you can kind of, right? Then what are they talking about? Do they feel like are they confident? Are they bringing any sort of knowledge? You're not expected to know everything, right? Mm-hmm. You're a student, you're learning. But do they at least have any kind of semblance of a knowledge? Right? Like not just spacing out, kind of like vague. Not
just in college because they're in college. They're there because they have a passion for some sort of thing, and they like stuff. Show that drive.
Just give some sort of notion that you're
alive.
You're kind of trying.
Right.
You know? I don't know. It's tough to put totally into words.
No, totally. I think you matched it because at career fairs when I give and I don't mean to brag about this, but there's a lot of students that have come up to me after they heard about the offers I've gone in internships, knowing my GPA was complete trash. So they were like, okay, clearly he knows something or he's doing something different. So I would tell them like, this is something I did, and I think you saw this, but I made business cards of myself.
It's another thing,
Yeah, because I needed to stand out. And I was like, you know what? A paper resume is going to be overlooked. I brought my paper resume, but I also brought a business card they're going to put in their wallet, pocket, or maybe throw away. It doesn't really matter. But I made a business card, and that helped me stand out, regardless of my skills, or regardless of what I was looking for. I remember, this is funny.
I thought that was a really cool touch.
Did you get to see it? Did you see the
No, yeah, you gave me a card.
I gave you a card. Hey, man, I know you know me, but pass this card on. Remember, so the business card, if you haven't watched my video on YouTube, I actually talk about how to stand out at career fairs. And one of the things I talk about is a business card. I actually show you guys how I structured it and what I wrote down. And one of the things I added to the business cards was a picture of myself, my face. Professional, right? But my face primarily because I wanted them to attach that short-lived memory at the career fair with that business card, with that resume. That's my goal. And I shit you not, at one time I was walking down the hallway, I crossed some guy who was looking at me weird, and as we passed, he's like, Juan? I turned around, I was like, yes, this is the Juan. Yeah, and he's like,
the Juan.
Yeah, you Juan Rivas? Blah, blah. I said, yeah. He's like, oh, yeah, I recognize you from your business card.
Yeah.
And I was blown away because I had never met the guy. And I was like, oh, cool. And I had to ask him, how'd you get the business card? So a friend of mine that works here passed me your business card. Actually, and that turned into an opportunity to become an ambassador for the program. But long story short is that it worked. For some reason, they passed the card. Maybe the guy was like, oh, this guy's annoying. Here's his card. Or he was like, this guy's cool. Check out his card. Either or, it worked.
It's another thing you did that's different.
Right. And that's what I'm saying is that there's like 500 students at those career fairs. And you're trying not just to get a job, but to get called. No, not just to get called, but to get the job, right? So
you want to, and to me, like, the mindset that I had, like, once I got my foot in the door, there's zero chance that I don't get it.
Right. Well,
So there's another aspect about all this. It's like you got to have that kind of confidence and inner fire in a way that once you know that you get that opportunity, there's literally no way you're going to fail because you have that much confidence in who you are and your talents.
Right.
So that's the way that I approached a lot of things.
That's really aggressive mindset. That's really
it's
good.
Aggressive.
It's really good to have.
And we're all different, right? Everyone's got their kind of different levels of personality, right? Me, I just have this failure, and that's kind of cheesy, but like failure's not even in my vocabulary.
Right.
Like, it's a joke to me. It's offensive, really.
Right.
It's an insult for someone to even suggest that I wouldn't succeed, that I'm not gonna do.
Try your
be the
best to
best.
succeed, right?
And like, so there's certain philosophies that I might go by here, and you might be able to help out with it. You're only going to be as good as you truly believe you can be. So if you think, all right, I hope that I do good. Maybe I'll do good. I'll give it a shot.
Right.
And maybe I'll stand out and all that, that kind of mentality. Well, maybe you won't.
Yeah.
And I hate to be harsh because you can't, if you have that kind of thought, like you've already defeated yourself.
That's
like,
exactly
in a
true.
sense.
Right.
Not totally, but to a certain degree, you've defeated yourself because you're not giving yourself enough credit. You're not empowering yourself. You're
underselling
lowering
yourself.
You're lowering yourself.
Right. Exactly.
And I'll put another analogy out there. Like Kirk Cousins is a quarterback for the Vikings right now.
Okay.
He every year was kind of getting the runaround by the Washington Redskins. Like they wouldn't give him a contract extension that he felt he deserved. And he kind of bet on himself. Like the last year of his contract, he's like, okay, I'm going to play this out because I know how good I am. I know how good I am, and this next offseason, maybe they won't pay me, but I know some other company will. Company being another team, right? Same kind of thing, right? And he was that good. He believed in himself. This is just an example, right? But lo and behold, comes that next offseason, he gets a huge guaranteed contract because he's that good.
That's
right?
good.
So, part of it is just there's a certain mindset that you got to have, in my opinion.
Well, that's a great mindset because you already had, and I don't mean to cut, but you already had a great GPA, great resume. You had the opportunity. For me, when I got that first opportunity with that shitty GPA, I was like, "This is it. This is your chance. If there's no opportunity to blowing this off."
And that's kind of the same. You're kind of the same mentality too, because you're like, that this is it, man. I got to go full fledged,
right,
all out, and you take that up. You do maximize it.
Right.
Basically, you have when you look 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever, have zero regret.
Exactly.
Like, you don't want to look back and say, man, if I would have just done this and that, maybe they would have gave me the job. If I would have just worked a little harder, if I wouldn't have partied that one night, or if I would have studied a little harder, if I would have came in a little earlier, and did I open myself up?
Right.
Or did I stay shelled in?
Right.
Well, all these kind of things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What were you going to say, Juan?
No, sorry. What I was going to say is that...
No, go ahead.
Toot my own horn. You say toot, right? Toot your own horn?
Yes,
Okay.
Puerto Rican, yes.
In Puerto Rico, we don't have that in Spanish. No, so part with that mentality of, not winning because you have to win. Otherwise, it's shit. Anyways, at Kinder Morgan, when I was doing the internship, I knew that this was my shot. I have to give it all right now. I busted my ass, setting modesty aside. I busted my ass, and to the point where at the end of the internship, I asked I don't know if you remember, the CIO, I asked him directly, I said, hey man, there's 3 weeks in between when the internship ends and when school starts. I would love it if I can continue working here for those 3 weeks. Yeah. And lo and behold, he gave me that opportunity. He said, yeah, stick it on. Those 3 weeks, and believe it or not, this might be not cliche or cheesy, but in those 3 weeks, I learned a technology that was Power BI at the time that opened an insurmountable amount of opportunities for me. As soon as I added Power BI, because it was a relatively new tool, to my resume and LinkedIn, the opportunities came flowing like crazy. It was what got me this job. The one I have right now, which is not Kinder Morgan at the time. Right now, I'm working at Occidental Petroleum. That company gave me an interview, gave me an opportunity. I don't know if it's on other aspects, but primarily because I knew Power BI. So for Occidental, I don't know if I told you, I interviewed for an internship, and they turned it into a full-time opportunity right there and there because I knew Power BI and they needed Power BI developers.
So you had the initiative to go seek out one of the top managers, right?
CIO.
Yeah, which then gave you the opportunity to stick a little bit longer.
Correct.
And then you learned a little bit more. And those tools that you learned gave you even more opportunity later. But what's the core thing that ignited all that? Your desire,
Right.
your fire to go push a little bit further.
Right.
That's, and maybe, who knows, right? Maybe if you didn't get opportunity there or get opened up to Power BI, maybe you wouldn't have got that opportunity.
That's absolutely
And like
true.
I'm kind of repeating what you said, but at the same time, it's just illustrating a point.
Right.
Like
It's all up to you.
separation, like understand what's in front of you. You know, like you have this great opportunity, maximize it.
Exactly. No, 100%.
And
That's
don't be
why.
and don't be afraid to go talk to anybody.
Yeah, the worst thing they can say is no, and when you don't ask them, they're already saying no. So just go ask them.
Exactly.
Nothing worse is gonna happen.
You've already eliminated yourself before you're even giving yourself a chance.
Right, exactly. But it was a great experience nonetheless. I want to make a note that even though I'm not working with Kinder Morgan, didn't work out, it was a great experience. And to any and every student that has an opportunity to work with Kinder Morgan, I absolutely recommend you go and try it out, and probably pester brother Patrick while you're there. Shout out to Corey, Gabe, and Dustin, the whole team.
It's a fun team. It's a fun group.
God, I have it on Facebook.
Dustin.
No, he hurt his back recently.
Say again?
He hurt his back recently. He had an operation. I talked to him, and I forgot his name. It's incredible that I remember Dustin and Gabe.
Talking about Roger?
No.
Oh, no, Steve.
Steve
Stroud. Yep.
Shout out to Steve, man. I hope you get better. I saw the statuses on Facebook, and man, that sounds incredibly painful, but I know you'll come back to it. You're a strong guy.
He's doing good. He's hanging in there. It's been pretty tough for him.
Oh,
though.
Shout out to Greg if you guys are watching this. Shout out to Greg
and Corey and Jaime.
Well, I say Corey. Oh, Jaime. I forgot Jaime actually. Yeah. Shout out to the whole team. But anyways, that's kind of my 2 cents. I really wanted to dig into the topic about school and whatnot because lately I've been finding myself trying to help students get jobs, and not necessarily jobs, but more so fit in and mold their mentality into the same, adopting like the same practices that I've done and the same practices you've done that have gotten you jobs and opportunities, which is just go get it. Like
it's easy to say. It's easy to say. It sounds cliche. You know,
right. That's a problem.
But it's. We all say that, everyone says it all the time, but like I see a lot of times where it's not being done.
Mm-hmm.
You can just tell.
Right.
Someone's either really going after it or they're not.
Right.
You gotta have that. You gotta be honest with yourself.
Right.
Are you really giving everything you can?
That guy that told me
you gotta
about
be
the
honest,
GPA?
man. You got to be honest. If you can lie to yourself through and be mediocre.
Right. Yeah. Just
you could go.
That.
You could go graduate. You can get a degree. You get your piece of paper. What was it worth though?
$50,000 in debt.
Hopefully
There's
not.
other options.
All these things, all the stuff kind of comes together. It's like, did you go out and you do the best you can? Are you going to be able 5-10 years from now say you did the best you can and that you did everything you could to go at least put your foot in a door somewhere? Right. So I mean,
that's what it is.
There's a lot we could go there.
Right.
I mean, it's.
What's it called?
The guy who gave you the GPA.
Yeah, the guy that told me about the GPA thing, he was extremely cocky about his GPA, and I don't mean to discourage or like say that I beat him or anything like that, but he got to witness me get the opportunities I got, and then afterwards was like, "You did it, man. That's awesome." And
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
how much was his GPA?
His?
If I may ask.
I don't remember his number, but it was well above 3.5. I don't know if it was 3.9, Patrick Triola, kind of big boy Pat, but it was definitely up there, whatever that means, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that stuck to me. Obviously, the experience at career fairs were just one of the best ways to get a job, especially for students, because they're expecting you to not have experience. So it was the best way to fucking shine.
Yeah, like, get your face out there.
Right.
It means a lot, because the recruiters are going to see you. Some of the managers are going to see you.
Right.
If you could put a face to a resume, that speaks a ton.
Right.
And just being able to talk one-on-one and get a sense of your personality.
Right.
And just where it's not always, and like I was saying before, it's not always everything that you know, because we know that, you have entry level kind of knowledge.
Right.
But, how do you present yourself? Things of that nature, that goes a long way too.
Right. But yeah, that's kind of like what I wanted to touch on as far as Kinder Morgan goes, primarily because It's a great company. Was a great experience for me, not just during, but definitely after, to the point where obviously I keep in contact with you, I keep in contact with Corey and all, the entire team. I should hang out a little bit more often, but yeah, I still keep in contact with y'all.
Every now and then.
Right. But
give a little phone call here and there.
Yeah, just to say I
if
need
you can,
money.
If you can.
Just asking for money.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, just called you to come over, start on the podcast and eat salmon. That's it.
I love it. Love salmon. It's good stuff.
I'm glad you liked it, man.
I'm here.
Yeah. Actually, you haven't said a word, man. Anyone listening, they're like, who was that? Who the hell was that? I might as well just reiterate him. His name's Alexander Popescu.
No, that's okay, man.
Cheers to Alex. Cheers, man.
Cheers to Alex.
Cheers.
Get the clinking.
Oh, Jesus,
clinking.
man.
Yeah.
Sorry, listeners. Those guys are doing it. But anyways, dude, so I kind of want to deviate now from school because honestly, I'm done with school. You're done with school.
We graduated.
Yeah, which obviously feels great. A lot more free time.
Yeah.
You were telling me you've been going to concerts and stuff.
Yeah.
You've been at Kinder Morgan for like 4 years now, right?
Yeah, I've been at Kinder Morgan for about 4 years.
That's awesome.
If you count my internship, then 4 years.
Okay, so you graduated like 3.5 years ago.
Yeah, so I started full time right after 2014. So like beginning of 2015 to now, I've been full time. So basically, 3.5.
Right.
3.75 years.
Right.
To be exact.
That's really. You want a calculator for that?
Say again.
You want a calculator?
Yeah, if we should probably just pause the podcast and get a calculator out if you don't mind.
I should get an assistant
Can we do
ready
that?
and available for that.
And so we'll be able to edit it though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Dude,
pausing now.
So before I cut this section off about school and whatnot,
yeah.
If someone wanted to work for Kinder Morgan and they for some reason have no clue where to go, how to go about it, and who to talk to, what kind of tips do you have for them? Practical, not like follow your dreams.
No.
Go here.
If you want kindermorgan.com.
Are you saying get to kindermorgan.com/careers and then apply there?
No. Anyone else? I would say career fairs. That was my
career fair is the best way.
Yes.
We have internships basically every summer for entry level internships every summer, and then we go to the career fair every spring and fall, both of those. So that's really the best way to get your face known, your resume out there, to get a little piece of who you are and whatnot. Right. But that, that's probably the best way. I don't know. We don't really do a lot of recruiting outside of that. Okay. Is the thing.
That makes sense.
So, I could give you contacts, but that might be cheating.
No, it's not.
That'd be kind of cheap.
Let's add to that because this makes a great point. I talked about it a lot.
I'm a contact.
Right.
I'll if you're watching this podcast, you will have a leg up.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. So, but I'll leave.
Contact me. I'm part of the recruiting.
I'll leave your contact information and your house address.
And now you'll get 200 calls every day.
With that note, I want to end this podcast right here. Thank you so much for anyone that tuned in, anyone that's watching. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like or wherever platform you're looking at, subscribe. I really appreciate it. Again, with us today, we had Patrick Triola, software developer for SCADA software in Kinder Morgan, company based in Houston, Texas. If you're ever looking for a job, feel free to contact Patrick for any tips, advice, or any workarounds to get into Kinder Morgan, any tips. And with me as well, I had Alexander Popescu, great friend of mine, philosopher, if you may. Hopefully we get a chance to have these gentlemen back on my podcast once again in the near future. Anyways, guys, thank you again so much for tuning in. This is your host, Juan Rivas. I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you, guys.